Welcome to question 6. Okay, so we are looking over a bit of surds and also we're looking at indices. It's quite a big question, so we'll go through each part separately and then see how we get on. So the first question, we've got a surd and it's on the denominator. So the important thing is to get it out of a denominator, we need to rationalise. To do this, I'm going to have my 2, 6 plus root 3. So that's just the question. Now to get it so the surd is on top, I'm going to be timesing everything by the opposite of the surd. So where it's normally a plus, it's going to be minus root 3. And this is just in order to cancel them out. It's the easiest way to do that. So it tells us we must show all of our work in. So at this stage, what I would do is just write your numerator and denominator separately, just to make sure that you've covered yourself, because sometimes we do maths in our head and we might not show our answers. And because a lot of this can be done on a calculator, when they're saying you must show all your workings, it's kind of like, don't use a calculator in the nicest way. So when we're times them, you times the two top numbers. So remember that, please don't try and do some crazy method. So that would give us 12 minus 2 root 3. And then on the denominator, we got 6 plus root 3. And then 6 minus root 3. So when we expand out of that, that's going to give you 36 minus 6 root 3 plus 6 root 3. And then root 3 times root 3 gives us root 9, which simplifies down to 3. Because we've got a plus and a minus, it's going to be minus 3. That altogether gives you 33. So now working this out, my total and final answer is 12 minus 2 root 3 all over 33. Okay, once we've got them, let's just check, is it in this form? Because that's what the question's asking for. So they're all integers, just whole numbers, remembering that. And we've got it in that format. Nothing can be simplified, so I'm happy with the way that it is at now. Okay, answer scheme, mark scheme, I should say. So knowing that we've multiplied it by 6 minus root 3 on top and on bottom, that would give us our first mark. So that was our M1, just so you know where that's come from. Then we got a mark for showing our workings for the denominator. So the work we've done here also gave us another mark, and that was an A1 mark. Rub that out because that's an annoying me. Okay. There we go. So that's done. And the final answer mark then gave us our last mark. So well done if you managed to get all 3 of those. Okay, so the next questions we've got are all to do with indices. So first of all, I'm just going to write down some of the rules that we need to remember. From GCSE, you should know these, that when you times indices, what that means is that they are being added. And then when you subtract indices, divide indices, I should say, you should subtract them. There we go. And that will give us 8m minus n. Now we've got those 2 rules, we're going to work out on this question. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the numerator. So we've got y minus 3 over 5. And we're adding, so plus in that 4 over 5. Right. So minus 3 over 4, 5, sorry. Add 4 over 5, that's going to give us minus 1 over 5. If you do need to swap them around just to work that out, that's absolutely fine. Now we're going to use this as our top answer to answer the next bit, because our numerator is essentially being divided by our denominator. So if I write that down now, so we got, let's change the color just so I can see what I'm doing. So we've got y 1/5, and we're taking away 3 over 4, because again, I'm using that rule over to the other side. So to do that, we got 1/5 minusing 3/4. So I'm just going to go cross method. So that's 4, 15, and 20. So that gives me minus 11/20. Minus 11/20. There we go. So that's my final answer, or some of you might have wanted to get rid of that minus. That's absolutely fine. If you do want to get rid of the minus, we're going to be putting it over 1. And that would give you y to 11/20. Yeah, that's that question done. Wasn't too bad. Now, the second one is really testing you because they've put an add in here. Now, the reason why they've shown an add in is because it's to make sure that you know that you can't times the powers now. It's just, they are separate. The best way to think of this is when you have any sum where you're working with algebra, like algebraic fractions, when you've added two different variables, like an x squared and an x, you don't merge them together. They are separate identities. So when you have a question like this, the best thing is to separate, okay? So they're both going to have the same denominator, but we're going to be looking at them separate. So x over 2/7, 2x over 2/7, and you might have already seen a pattern happening here. And I'm just going to put plus. We've got 6x 3/7 and 2x 2/7. Now I can work these out separately, and I think it's a little bit easier to see as well. Now, with the first fraction, which I've now coloured in red, we've got x to the power of 2/7 divided by 2x to the 2/7. I can divide that whole fraction by x to the 2/7, and that just then simplifies that fraction on its own. I've got one load of it at the top and two loads of it at the bottom, so that's now simplified to a half. Same with the sense of here, I've got 6 and 2. Well, I know 6 and 2, well, that simplifies quite nicely. So 6 and 2 simplifies to 3. And then we've got that rule that we used at the top. So now in x 3/7 is going to be taken away 2/7 because we're dividing them at this stage. So that's going to give me x 1/7. Now, it hasn't asked us how to leave it, so I would leave the question like that. So a half plus 3x to the 1/7. Okay, and that's the two questions. Should we check on how to get marks? I'm going to put them both up. Let's get my green pen. What feels like school. Okay, so I got 1 mark for noticing that it was 1/5 divided by 3/4. So essentially I had to know that I was getting that 1/5, which I would have still picked up the mark there because it's an alternative correct first step. So I'd have had to get that 1/5. So I can take that off there. Then the second question was knowing that I was subtracting them and getting my second part by there. Just going to rub off M1 because it was actually a B1 for this question. So that's done. Okay, so now let's look at part II. I was going to say something really cringe then. So the first one, correctly extracting 2/7 as a factor, or showing it. So exactly what I've done. So I've split those fractions up. So when we see something common like this, we split them up first, which what I've done. That gave me M1 for the bit in blue. Perfect. And then I only got a mark for my final answer there, so A1 by that. So that's also important to notice. So we're not getting that in between mark. There's no mark for working out that the first bit's a half. There's no mark for working out 3x 1/7. You have to have them both. And it also shows that you could have had it slightly different. So extracting it just from the set go, so you didn't have to split them up if you had another method. But personally, I would have done that. Okay, so this question 6 finished. We had a total of 7 marks. Hoping that you can see where all 7 marks have come from, and hopefully that helps you with your studies. Bye.